And welcome back. We're moving now into our second conversation for the morning. And this morning we'll be talking to the experts about how to talk to children about COVID-19. Now in to tell us all about it, we've got Deshane Lopez, who is a psychologist, and we also have Elicia Habet, who is a mental health therapist. Ladies, good morning, and it's so nice to have you in. Welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It is real as real can get. We talk so much about the boogeyman. We talk about all these different things, but COVID-19 is definitely one that you need to have the conversation with. Let's get there. And firstly, how to start a conversation with your child or children.
Well, I think one of the important things before you could have the conversation with your children is you have to focus on yourself, because children are very receptive to their parents and to adults around them. So before you could have a conversation with your child, you need to do a self-check in terms of how are you feeling with this. You know, as adults, we are at the front in terms of knowing how drastic this disease is and how fast it's spreading. And so we are also anxious as well. And so it's giving us time to relax, process, identify how this is impacting us. What are we going through for ourselves, so that when we have the conversation with our children, we're calm. Because if we're not calm and we're talking and we're telling them, no, don't worry, they're going to realize that I should be worried because you're telling me not to worry, but you're worrying, right? And so it's first starts with the adults. How do you process what you're experiencing? This is a pandemic that is affecting everyone.
Yes.
There comes a lot of stress. There is a lot of uncertainty. There's not a lot of information about it.
And we don't like uncertainty.
And we don't like uncertainty. We like to plan. We like to prepare. And so now we're trying to prepare, but we don't know prepare for what or how. What is the extent? And so as much as new information is coming, since it's been happening for months now, we're at a better state compared to other countries because we have more information than they had when they had their first case. But it doesn't mean that we're not in that panic state either. And so there's a lot of things that is happening. We're panic shopping, we're planning, but we don't know what will happen, so we still can't even predict. And when we're unable to predict, that gives us our stress level. So we become stressed when we don't feel that we're able to manage with the situation that is coming. So we have this impending doom that is about to happen.
Yes.
While there's a lot of cases of people recovering, there's still a lot of promotion, I would say sometimes, that there's a lot of talking about the death toll. Now, our country is small, so even if they're saying that 80% of the population will recover, 20% of the population will have more difficulties. And so that is scary because we also have a country that has high hypertension and all these things. So apart from the old age, we also have the underlying conditions. And so we have a lot of that in country. So that makes it more scary for us. So how do we process in terms of how do we relax? How do we manage? How do we change now with this new lifestyle they're telling us to stay in?
Tell me, how do we process and how do we adapt? Because some of it, I was saying yesterday, it's, you know, they call it the new normal. Some things I don't want to be normal. Hand washing, yes. I think we should all embrace that for the rest of our lives. But the distance is hard. You know, we haven't seen you in a while. We can't hug you and say hello, congratulations. We can't see, some people are not visiting their parents anymore. Some health workers don't have their children at home with them. So how do you adjust to some of the changes that are very different from your norm?
Well, I think adjusting comes with understanding the life cycle, so to speak, for what's happening. So right now they're encouraging social distance so that we could manage the disease as much as possible. So this is something temporarily, right? The good thing is we have electronics, we have internet that makes it a lot smaller. So while we have to maintain physical distance, we don't really have to stop social communication. And so that is something that is a plus in terms of, yes, right, for now we need physical distance. We could still engage with each other. There is Facebook, there is WhatsApp, there are different social media that you could still be present, you know. So for example, if we have family members in the States, we've probably been doing it for a while, still socializing and still engaging, and they're probably in the house participating with every single thing. So
Come
for
sing
now,
happy birthday with us.
it's adapting, And it's going to take a while to get used to in terms of, okay, I'm used to giving hugs whenever I meet someone, and now that changes. But the hope is that this will be temporarily until the researchers and the scientists find a vaccine to help mitigate the disease. So for now, yes, it is difficult because we're accustomed to it, and we still constantly have to be like, oh, wait.
Yeah.
You know, have to do the elbow box
I
and
know.
the ankle, right?
Or just wireless.
Yes, you know, so it is difficult. It takes practice.
Yeah.
And it's a matter of, okay, we're in this, but we could adapt to it. It's not lifelong.
Yeah.
Especially the physical part. The hand washing thing, I think culturally we are a culture that washes hands a lot. So I do believe.
Well, the
wash.
20 seconds.
Well,
one,
but the whole in detail, what we may not
No.
go as in detail, but you know, it's just adding on to what we already have. So it's not a brand new recommendations that they're giving.
I like what you're saying. So a part of bringing yourself to a place where you can have the conversation with your child is just some of the self-talk. Like, this may not be my regular routine, but this is temporary to help save lives. Maybe that's, I'm being a hero because I stay home.
All right.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to bring in Elicia. You know, as a therapist, there's so many things. There's so many things that you've seen, you've heard, and having COVID-19 now on board, it's real. It's in our country. How do we process this? Because we had a conversation a while ago, and Marlene was like, you know what, you need to calm down.
No, I didn't say calm. I just see the concern on you.
In other words, because I was concerned. So let's get to how do we get to calm nerves?
Well, I think first that we have to know what is anxiety. So for our bodies, for our minds, we're always trying to reach a point of homeostasis, like some type of balance here. And what happened in the world is that we're on tilt. So we don't know how to cope with it because it's something new, it's something unknown. And when something is unknown, then you have no idea what to do, and then we don't have a cure yet. So everybody's freaking out. And one of the things that I find that we're beating ourselves up. Yes, we should have taken action since January, but we're here now, and I think we're doing well. Everybody. When I walked the streets yesterday, barely anybody was around. Everybody's practicing social distancing. So I applaud my Belizeans for what they're doing now. They're backing around their hand sanitizers. So how do we adjust from normal living to the now living? Is just accepting that we are here now. And I know we wish that we could go back to hugging each other and to being around each other and to the parties. But we have to focus on loving each other as a people. When you love each other, you're going to do the things that you have to do. And by doing that is practicing social distancing. So that is what we do. We love our fellow Belizeans, and we just adjust and know that it won't be long. Just be patient. You could do it.
We're not in a permanent state. You have restored calm just within a few minutes, ladies, because you just reminded us of the most critical parts. We're doing this for ourselves, for others, and this is only for now. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and we will get there.
So it's also about, so how do you manage? You asked this question like 2 times already. So how do you manage? So one of the first things is identifying the changes that you're experiencing.
Okay.
There's a lot of physiological changes that comes with anxiety, that comes with stress. The sweating, sometimes it's the thoughts running. There is difficulty in your sleeping pattern, your eating pattern. There's different changes that you'll start to identify. So it's good to be aware of what is happening in your environment. So there's a lot of changes, and there's also a lot of changes physically and emotionally. So you want to be able to keep abreast in terms of what is happening to me right now. So the minute that you could recognize what is happening to you, then that puts you at an advantage, because now you're able to recognize the changes that you're experiencing. And then after you recognize, now is how do you redirect?
Okay.
Right? How do you relax? So as I mentioned, there's a lot of physiological changes.
Okay.
And so when we in that state, our body is going chaotic inside. We're not able to see, but we're able to experience it. So we want to reset our body so that we're able to relax. So there's breathing exercises. So it's not a regular breathing where we just, and you see the chest goes up and goes down. No, it's breathing from the diaphragm.
Okay.
Right?
So this sounds like a demo moment. All
So-
right, let's go. Do we need to
From
stand
the
or we
stomach.
could do sitting?
You can do sitting.
Okay.
So if you sit, so if you notice if I put my hand on my stomach and I say breathe in, my stomach's push out. And when I say breathe out, it goes in. So that helps to reset more than because we're putting pressure here and we're not really resetting our body to relax. But when we're doing it from here, we're focusing our attention in terms of our stomach muscles. And what that does is slowly reset our body, that we put our body in a sense of calmness.
Yeah.
So we do that in sets. So I always try to teach people in sets. So I always start from 3. We're going to do 1, 2, 3. When I say breathe in, I want your stomach to expand. Right? So let's try it. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. 1, 2, 3. Breathe in. 1, 2, 3. Breathe out. Now, different people have different number that they need to reach for them to reach that state of calm. I always start at 3 just to get people to practice, because sometimes people go with the chest part more than the stomach part, right? So we start there. But for me, for example, my number is at 8. So I have to hold my breath for 8
seconds.
count to
Say
8,
about 8 seconds.
then breathe out.
Okay.
And that calms me down. So it takes practice to figure out what is your number, what is your comfort. But that helps to reset the body physiologically, right? It's also about mindfulness and being aware of what's happening. Looking at how can you distract your thoughts, because a lot of time you always have a lot of thoughts and you're thinking about all the craziest things. We always go worst case scenario. But when we go worst case scenario, we don't think, okay, so what can I do if this happened? We don't go in the action part.
Oh, we just worry that
We
it's
just
gonna
worry that
happen.
it's going to
Okay.
happen, and we don't go in the action part. So that's the part where we come to redirect. Now, there's
Yeah.
a lot of changes happening in our environment. There are a lot of things that we have to adapt to. There are a lot of things that we're going online now. Things are shutting down. Some people are no longer at work. They're at home. And so there's what do I do now? And so while the country is in this space of limbo, what can you do at home? So when you're at home, there are still things that you can do. You can still go in your yard, you know, because so you still have that ability. You can still have things that you can
Get
engage.
fresh air.
Fresh
sun.
air. So this is also a time to rebuild in terms of family, that reconnection, because if you're always at work, now you have the opportunity to be at home with the kids.
Yes.
And so you could redirect. So what are some of the things that you wanted to do but you never did because you had to work?
Yeah.
Now is a good opportunity to make use of the situation, you know? So once you're able to think in terms of that aspect, then you could have that conversation with your children.
Yeah.
So the Caribbean National Alliance of Psychologists had a list on their website of things of how to have this conversation with your children.
Okay.
So one of the
Can I just interject there? I think a lot of parents think that the kids don't notice. That's the first thing. How aware of them are they of what's going on? I mean, like what age at what age do they start to realize or be aware of what's happening around them?
From birth.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
When a mom is stressed, the baby's picking up
Okay.
from early on,
Really?
right?
Yes.
So people are thinking their toddler is fine, but their toddler is aware that something is
They
happening.
don't know what
around.
is happening, but they know that something
Something
is
is
happening.
happening.
Right? The changes, they're able to detect that there's change and there's distress, and so they're able to feed from that.
Okay.
So when parents are distressed from babies are able to detect. So you know this baby will cry even more because you're stressed, and then you get more stressed. So children are more susceptible to emotions and what's happening.
Okay.
And so while they may not understand in details what's happening, they know that mommy isn't happy, daddy isn't in a good place at this point.
Yeah.
So they're very aware of what is happening. So it's also having the conversation with your children, you know.
Yeah.
There will be changes that you may see in terms of their pattern. There may be more excess of the behavior that you're seeing at home, or they may go completely opposite, and you're wondering what's happening. I haven't even had the conversation with my child. Why is my child acting all this? They're sensing. And also, we watch TV a lot. We're on the internet.
Yeah.
So they're also
They're hearing
aware.
it.
They're hearing
Yeah.
what's happening. So I also recommend in terms of reducing the amount of time that you're watching all the updates. You know, as
Yeah.
parents, you could have it on your phone or having it on speaker to check in if that's
Yeah.
what you want to do, but not having it on your big screen TV at home
All
and all
day
day. So that's all that they're
That's
focusing
all
on.
they're focusing on.
Right. And at this point, especially because things are new and we have our first case on Monday, while school sent home homework, I would recommend focusing on quality time and having engagement and fun rather than focusing on, okay, get back to work.
Can you say that again? I sent this to one of my friends yesterday. I said, we are in a health emergency, not an education or school emergency. Yes, teachers, we're saying they'll do their schoolwork, but can we just refocus now on getting everyone in a healthy space?
Yes.
This is your recommendation from the psychologist. Wonderful.
Yes. So at this point, we want to put academics at the back burner. We
Yeah.
want to focus on the emotional state and having the family being able to adapt. And we can't be adapting simultaneously and just focusing on academics because we won't be able to focus. If we're stressed, it's hard to focus on the schoolwork. But if we give time for us to process and then figure out a strategy in terms of how to cope, then a week or two from now, depending on how long this is, then we put back in the schoolwork. But at this point, it's focusing on the emotional part, letting them be aware, but also engaging in activities. So this is a new opportunity. Parents are home, brothers, sisters are home. Let's try to engage. Let us pull out the card games, the old-time games that we used to have to start to engage. Because when we're doing that, while things are uncertain, we are certain of what we're having at this moment. And so that is very important.
So we know now that the first thing we want to do, because it is having that conversation with the child or the children. As a matter of fact, I put it into the context of having that conversation with the family. First things first, you need to calm down. You need to relax, and there are different ways of how you could do that. When you're delivering your conversation about any disease or anything that you know that you're scared about, how do you deliver this message? How do you, in what context? Do we do it in a fun way? How do we do this?
It all depends on the age range, right?
Okay.
So depending on the age of your child, then you decide if it's going to be more friendly, a little bit more just pure facts. So it all depends in terms of, and then you have to know your child. How do they receive information? Because that is also important, right? One of the things, so for little children, having fun, so washing hands. There's a lot of YouTube videos that have songs that you could wash your hands and all these things.
Oh, you see.
So they love playing with the water.
And
So that's
right?
easy, right?
So, and as they get older, then you want to be able to explain, but also don't talk in this doom fashion as well. You still want to be cognizant, okay, so you're aware in terms of the information that is happening. But there's also the positive that is also happening as well. So you want to be able to be direct in terms of the conversation and try not to not necessarily hide the information, because they also sense when you're holding back as well. So again, it's preparing yourself in terms of what else you need to know. Okay, so there is a virus. It's going around, and talk about how it spreads and what are things that they can do. So remember, whenever we feel stressed and anxious, it's because we feel we're unable to do anything. And so some of the things that you can do is practicing the social space, the washing hands, and keeping the space clean. Right?
So, you know, I think you have the conversation with your child, and you were so right when you said they have exposure at all levels. So even if they're doing tablet or internet, maybe they see, oh, things get really scary, people are dying, and mommy has to leave for work or daddy has to go outside. How do you minimize it? Because I could only imagine the fears they'll develop if they think outside is evil and mommy and daddy are going out into it. So what do you say, and how do you help them realize that you're also keeping yourself safe? Advice? Yeah.
Well, so it's the same thing. You're letting them know in terms of what are the precautions that you are taking.
Okay.
You know, and how can you protect yourself. So the same way that they are protecting themselves at home, these are the things that you are doing so that when you go, you're able to do it. And also let them know that not walking outside will cause you to get the infection, but it touches surfaces and you touch your face and all these things. So you want to explain to them in terms of what's happening at home and what happens when we're at work. And especially for parents who are at the front line, you know, that makes it even more anxious. So there's a lot of stay home, because we have loved ones that are at the front line as well. So it's also letting them know, okay, at home, at work, these are the steps that we're taking. So let them know, rather than having
that
them...
you're protecting
yourself. Yes, that you're protecting yourself so that they don't have to speculate what's happening out there, right? You let them know from the beginning, these are the things that are happening, these are the changes, and this is how we're going to deal with it.
So since it's, you said it really clearly, and I never thought of it. We are fresh in kind of facing our reality. And so it's a good time to focus on just getting everybody in the best place possible.
Yeah.
But at some point, is it important for us to set routines for the day as well? Because we're looking at 4 weeks of unscheduled time or self-regulated time. And I know we always talk about keeping kids on routine. So at what point or how important is it or necessary for us to do that?
It is important.
So,
Yeah.
Sorry.
so routines are very important in every day.
Yeah.
We need a routine. So when you get up in the morning, you have to stay consistent. I will get up at this time and I will do this. But oftentimes, a lot of people are afraid of routines because they think that routine is boring. But the trick to a routine is that you make a routine that is fun for you. So maybe you put like 80% responsibility and 20% fun, just to reward yourself.
Yeah.
So we could implement that in this new time.
Okay.
That, especially because kids do need routine. Everybody needs routine, but because they are not in school and they're used to routine, they're going to be idle. And then they need that mental stimulation. So yes, I suggest making a routine that will make them have fun, but also learn.
Yeah.
Because they need to learn. They need to develop their minds because it's going to be like a month break. What are you going to do with just being idle like that?
Yeah.
So
I know.
All right. So
planning.
So like I said in the beginning, you want to be able to process information and feelings.
Yes.
Sorry. You want to be able to process feelings. And
Yeah.
after that phase, then you start to introduce different things. So you know, okay, what would be our morning routine? Will we clean the house first? Will we watch TV? Will we play a game? And how long will we spend doing any assigned work, right?
Okay.
So if you spend 2 hours doing work for school, then the other one will be household activities, and then it's just game and fun. Because you want to be able to have a little bit of everything. You don't want it to just be fully focused on schoolwork or only doing household chores. You want to be able to have
TV time.
or TV time. You want to be able to have as much as possible.
Yeah.
But I also want to say also, if TV time is one of the main things that child only have access to, it doesn't mean that you're a bad parent for allowing your child to watch the TV, right? We have to be real that sometimes parents do still have to go, and they won't be someone that's going to make sure that they stick to this routine. And so even if it's watching TV, if they're safe, they're fed, that is very also important, because we also don't want to cram them up at another family member's home, because this time also create a lot of other challenges that may arise psychologically. You know, we don't want to put them in harm's way as well. So it is also something to be mindful for. So I always want to say, if your child is watching TV and it's safe, that is also okay. You're not a bad parent. Because I think also as parents, is what I'm going to do with my kid, I'm a bad parent, I can't focus, you know? So it's also lessening the pressure for parents that they don't have to feel that level of guilt.
I can't imagine it. I've been thinking about this. I think being locked up at home is going to be challenging for adults. You know, everybody's going to feel a little stir crazy after a couple days. The issue, though, is, and I really feel that we've not acknowledged the high-risk situation that may happen. If I'm already a very violent parent, or I kind of, you know, lash out,
Aggressive, yes.
and I'm highly stressed, I mean, children can be vulnerable at home, even with parents or caretakers. So it really is critical that we're mindful of where we send them and what circumstances they'll be under as well.
One of the things that I definitely want to touch on is that, of course, we've mentioned dealing with children, but at the same time, we might now have teenagers who are, then again, another extremely vulnerable population in terms of, you know, how information is dispensed to them. And I want to get to Elicia once
getting
again.
them to do things. I
Getting
know
them to do
parents just
things.
like raise the volume on the TV.
Probably they've developed some kind of mental health issue, you know, disorder. And it might be hard for us as parents to deal with them knowing that there's a pandemic across the earth. What are the conversations we must have with them to try and get them to calm down and try to get them to relax?
Well, how you do that is just, you basically just sit them down and you tell them this is the state of the world, and let them, show them the statistics, show them what's out there. And that if we work together, social distancing, making sure that you have proper hygiene, that you're going to be okay. There's no need to panic. I think one of the things that the whole world is at uproar is because we have this need of socialization. And that's why we feel so caged. Even me, I want just bust out and be free and hug everybody. God knows I love hugging. But socialization is such a need, but also I find that we're also isolated. When we go and work and we come back home, we immediately go to the screen. And like Miss Deshane say, that we have to focus on quality time, on spending time with each other.
Oh, wow. You want to chime in on that? Or?
I just want to say a lot of teens are already screen friendly already. They're in their rooms on the devices as well. So it's also just letting them know what is the family perspective.
Yeah.
Because they're going to hear a lot of things. They're going to be introduced to a lot of information. But what is the family stance?
Yeah.
You know, and that's security. So it's also all about grounding them and giving them security as a household, rather than just having them feed on information that they're hearing. What is our family plan? How do we plan to take care of ourselves as a family? So if one or two person have to work, what are the precautions? What will happen when they get home? How will they take care of themselves to cleanse themselves before they enter into the home? So it's creating that this will be our norm, so that they feel safe. So it's all about, so when we talk about routine, it's predictability.
Yes.
And so if we could give them information so that they could predict more or less, then they're a little bit more calm.
Yeah. And what I hear from you very clearly is it's inclusive.
Yes.
It's not saying you're going to do this, and this. It's kind of like working out the plan with them.
Yes.
And that gets them on board. Is that the idea?
Yes. And then it's more, okay, we can all do this. So how could I be a part of?
Yeah.
So when you feel that you're able to do something, remember anxiety is always when you feel that you have no control, and everything is happening and you can't do anything. There's this panic. There's this sense of I have no control, no security. So if you could provide that and you could create that together, then you have a higher chance in terms of one, a buy-in, and two, they're a lot calmer because they feel like I can do something. So washing my hands, making sure the house is clean, keeping my distance. I am doing something so that I don't get infected, my family members don't get infected. So I feel like I have control at least of this area. So we can't control other people, but if we control our household, then we feel a bit calmer in our home.
Sweet.
All right. Parents are watching. Tell us what else. Any tips that you want to give parents right now in what is a very unique situation?
Honesty. I think honesty is very important.
Yeah.
Talking about feelings. So we're not a feeling person that always talk, but it's also talking about it. So we're getting a lot of information in terms of washing your hands and doing all these things. But how about the feeling? Can we talk about our
How do we
feelings?
ask the feeling question? Because it's not, are you scared? Or
No, it's not just, are you scared? So you could start with me. So for example, you can say, well, there's a pandemic going around, or we're doing all these things. I am scared. I'm not sure what is going to happen a month from now. So I'm nervous. I'm scared, and I want to know if you're feeling scared and nervous too. If there's any other feeling that you're feeling right now, and that way they could start that conversation. And sometimes they may not want to say. So there's different things that you can do. Children and teenagers love to draw. So they could draw.
Yeah.
You could have them give stories, and then have them just give their interpretation of what's happening.
Okay.
You know, relaxing. So there's adult coloring for teenagers. You could have them coloring, and you could have the conversation. You could be listening to music while they're having the conversation. And it's just talking in terms of, if we could say what we're feeling, then they will feel a lot easier to say, and let them know that there's no wrong feeling.
Okay.
We feel what we feel because of how we interpret information. It may not always be accurate, but we could always discuss that. And so it's having that space to know that if you're feeling annoyed right now, it's okay. If you're feeling frustrated, it's okay. It's okay to have the feeling, to identify the feeling. And if you're feeling like I feel 3 different feelings at once, that is also okay. You're also verbalizing what you're experiencing, but it's also letting them know that it's okay to name what you're feeling. And even if that feeling is confusion, it's also okay.
Okay.
So you saying it for yourself and letting them know it's very okay to have that feeling.
Okay, so I think what you're saying is so clear, and perhaps one of the worst habits we'll have to break is when the kids say, I feel scared, is, no, you don't have to feel scared, or you shouldn't feel scared.
That doesn't work,
We
though.
really don't want to say that.
Because when you do that, they get scared even more.
Okay, so what can I say when they tell me they're scared? Because that's a natural reaction. It's like, no, don't be scared. You shouldn't. We're taking care of it, you know?
So one of the things that we need to do is acknowledge their feeling.
Okay.
Oftentimes is the way how you responded. You don't have to feel scared, blah, blah, blah. It's already defensive.
Yeah.
So the parent is already defensive, already like hitting you like, you don't have to feel like this and so on, right? So you first have to acknowledge, okay, I understand that you're scared. Why are you scared?
Okay.
And then they say maybe, I'm scared because I can't see my friends. And then you could say, it's okay to feel scared, and maybe we should check on your friends. You know, get involved with the child, get involved in their world. Oftentimes, maybe parents don't really care about the friendships of their child, but they should care because that is their need to socialize with people. And so you just acknowledge them, and then you try to find out why they're scared, and then you could suggest in ways, you know, try to feel them. Empathy is the biggest thing.
Excellent. Cool.
That is a great recommendation right there. So
Definitely.
that's step number one, right?
And there's also some resources online that you could find that has children's storytelling in terms of how to talk about the virus. So, like I said, the Caribbean National Alliance has on their link storyline that was created by Mind Heart Connect that talks about how do you talk to your children about virus. It's very cartoon-like. And so sharing it in a cartoon figure, so you ask in terms of how do you tell smaller children. So you could do the songs, you could have it in a story form to let them get the information. So there are resources that you could tap into that is child friendly, that is that you could use, and you could determine if my child more likes to sing or if a story will be much better, right? So it's always about being upfront, but also not just focusing in terms of just the hand washing, but also the emotions. It's very important to acknowledge the emotion that is happening.
And age-related
And
information.
age-related information.
Ladies, thank you so much for contributing your expertise in helping us collectively recognize that we have to take care of ourselves. We have to recognize, relax, redirect that energy, and most importantly, recognize that our children are paying attention and we must talk with them as well. Thank you.
Thank you too. So I just want to chip in that we're now offering services online.
Nice.
Because of the recommendations given. We're not offering services at our office at Buttonwood Bay. So we're strictly online at this point.
Okay.
Because we want to be able to, because we know mental health is important.
Yeah.
But we're also following precautions.
Yeah.
So if you want to access services with any one of us, you could reach us at, you can check us on our Facebook page at Counseling and Psychological Services.
Counseling and Psychological Services on Facebook.
On Facebook.
And we can figure out from there how to make appointments online. And that's also, I mean, it's video. It's pretty much like what we did with our first interview, which is equally as interactive.
Yeah, so it's very important to focus on your mental
Social distancing in practice. Thank you.
Yes.
We're going to go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, we'll be joined by representatives from the Belize Medical Associates. Please stay tuned.